Do you care about the environment? If yes, that makes you, me, and everyone else that cares a strong driving force in the protection and conservation of our environment. The greatest threat to our environment is the belief that someone else will save it. It must begin with you. But why is that? We are here to explore the answer to that question. Welcome to Our Environment, Our Future. My name is Ruth Venzu Witola, and our focus on the program today is community participation in environmental management and protection. Communities in Zambia and all over the world have a close and unique connection with the environment. We all depend on the natural resources around us for our livelihoods. Activities intended to improve our socio-economic well-being continue to contribute to the degradation of the environment. Therefore, every stakeholder in the environment must be involved in its protection and conservation.
So community participation is the involvement of people in a community in projects in order for them to better their own lives. Now, when we extend that to community participation in environmental management, we are basically looking at the process by which people participate in environmental management in the various processes, which include planning. It also includes the implementation of various projects or processes that take place in the environment, but it also looks at the management of that environment in the community in which they live.
Globally today, community participation in environmental issues is being emphasized. The world community has woken up to the realization that stakeholders must be involved in coming up with the lasting solutions to environmental and human problems.
I would not say that there's adequate participation, community participation in environmental management, simply because of the answer is when you look at our environment currently, it speaks for itself. You look at waste management, for example. There are still issues regarding waste management. When you look at cutting down of trees in our environment, it's still an issue. When you look at the response even to our own EIA comments here as the Zambia Environmental Management Agency, people are still not able to fully participate and engage in environmental management. So at the moment, I say that there's still need for people to fully participate in environmental management. Some of the factors hindering community participation in environmental management include, first of all, one of the major ones is attitude towards environmental management. The mindset change. People still need to change their mindset towards environmental management. You agree with me that you come across instances where somebody is driving a very nice Porsche car, lives in Kabulonga or in one of these Porsche residences, and they'll open a window and they'll throw trash in the middle of Cairo Road, for example. And so that is one wrong attitude. The other the other issue is lack of knowledge. Many of our communities do not yet have the knowledge of the benefits that they can derive from a clean and healthy environment. So that is also one of the problems that we currently have. The other one is, of course, lack of the means. Just to participate. Sometimes people live in far-flung areas, they do not have access to media, they do not have access to certain resources that will enable them to participate in environmental management.
Effective community participation in environmental management requires that, among other things, communities have an understanding of resources, environmental problems and possible solutions.
In environmental management, we recognize the important role that the community plays in the management of our natural resources in our environment. In that regard, we are basically looking at getting the members of the public, regardless of location, participating in the decision making on some of the key environmental issues that affect them as individuals and as a community. An example I can give is in the environmental impact assessment EIA process, which ZEMA manages. We basically ensure that the community plays a very active role in the decision-making process for any proposed developments or projects. So in the environmental impact assessment, it is a requirement, for instance, that for certain developments that require to undergo that process, the community are informed, first of all, about that proposed development that could be happening in their area, and ultimately are also involved in identifying both the positive and negative environmental impacts that could arise from that development. There are a number of factors that foster community participation in the country. First of all, our legal and institutional frameworks create platforms for community participation in environmental management in Zambia. Our constitution is very clear on the importance of protecting our environment. Zambia has a number of legal frameworks that's in terms of legislation that has been put in place that recognizes the importance of community participation. In particular, I'll refer to the Environmental Management Act number 12 of 2011, which basically gives the mandate to the Zambia Environmental Management Agency to carry out a number of functions. One of the issues that the EMA is very clear on is the need to promote community and public participation in environmental management so that they are part of the decision-making process for key environmental issues or decisions that are being made affecting the environment in the country. Added to that, I would recognize also the provision of information, because if people know, first of all, what the environment is, environmental trends affecting their area or location, how it affects them as individuals, and what they can do as a community or as individuals to protect the environment. So that in itself, the provision of information is important, or is another prominent factor I would recognize as key to fostering community participation. Let me also add that creating the necessary platforms themselves, opportunities and avenues for community participation through a number of areas. One of them is, for instance, the stakeholder engagement meetings or public hearings that ZEMA and many other environment-related institutions convene, where individuals or communities actually then get an opportunity to participate. We recognize as Zambia Environmental Management Agency that our success or our achievements in terms of safeguarding the environment rely on stakeholder as well as community support to the various functions that we perform. So in that regard, we deliberately make efforts to foster community participation in environmental management.
If the communities do not understand the value of their natural resources, actually one of the challenges that we face is that in Zambia we have an understanding of the value of copper. It's a natural asset, but we don't have a full appreciation of the value of our water resources, for example. If there's contamination of water, then we have health problems. If there's scarcity of water, then there's no water that Lusaka Water is going to pump to bring to our homes. If there's no water, there's no food security. So we believe if communities do not understand and appreciate the value of these natural assets, it means that there will be unsustainable harvesting and utilization, and maybe even conflicts around natural resource usage. We know of late there's been an issue around rosewood, for example, where because the communities in the areas where rosewood grows they do not understand the commercial value of this tree. They sell it for 20 kwacha, and yet in the market it fetches between, a log fetches between 2,500 and 3,000 kwacha. So if the community do understand the value of natural assets, well, guess what? They will make sure that whatever harvesting is happening is done properly so that there's rosewood tomorrow. And that same rosewood can be a source of income for themselves, and also that income could also help them to better take care of the natural environment.
So we are done. Sir, are you going to plant one? Please plant one, then you can come back and say, I planted that. No, it's fine. Yeah, okay. Cool.
Benjamin Mibenge, an environmental activist, a member of Green Pop and chairperson of the Wildlife and Environmental Conservation Society, has taken it upon himself to help roll back deforestation, one tree at a time.
Our main thing, that of planting trees, I think has been a very, very important aspect of our life. Currently, we have a radio program. What we normally do is you pick up a tree, you describe it, if it is medicinal, if it is timber, and things like that. Once people know the use of trees, then they will actually protect them. If, for example, you found people standing, like that gentleman is standing under the shade, you know, it is rare that people think about what is giving them shade, because we take life for granted that this thing will always be there. I mean, look, we drink water, but we don't associate it with the forest. We put on leather shoes, but we don't associate it with the forest. I fail to understand that. It's the forest that help us generate rain. When it rains, then the grass grows. When the grass grows, then cattle eat. When they've eaten, that's how we get our height. Most of the medicine that we are getting in hospitals, for example, they come from the forest with the contribution of the forest and so on. That's why you find that in Livingstone, for example, people come and ask, Uncle Ben, can you give us trees to plant? You know, that is a feedback. Then you know people appreciate. We go around, if we see somebody cut a tree, it's total war. Here it is total, I can tell you, we do that, we try to stop, you can quarrel and so on. At the end of the day, you make friends because you have actually explained to them why they should not cut the trees.
The Environmental Management Act number 12 of 2011 outlines a number of functions that the Zambia Environmental Management Agency as a regulatory wing of government performs in this country, a wide range of them. So in addition to playing an advisory role and the regulatory related function of pollution prevention and control, ZEMA also promotes provision of information or awareness raising in general. So to do that, it's done through a number of different ways. First of all, we promote research. So some of the research we, as an agency, we're undertaking ourselves and disseminating findings which ultimately are helping our stakeholders and members of the community understand the environmental trends affecting this country. We also are producing a number of educational materials in different forms to try and raise levels of awareness on the environment. Another strategy I would allude to is our engagement specifically with learning institutions at various levels. We appreciate the fact that we need to raise a generation of young people that appreciates the need to protect the environment. So we do have deliberate awareness programs that target youth as well as learning institutions. Added to that is a number of networks, professional networks, as well as environment-related networks that ZEMA is supporting. In line with the 7th National Development Plan, government has prominently encouraging all of us as government institutions to collaborate. You know, there's a strong emphasis on the cluster and the need for us to undertake collaborative ventures in terms of promoting the environment other than working in isolation. So ZEMA has very strong ties to other regulatory agencies and wings of government that are undertaking various development efforts. we believe that when people know what is happening in the environment and specific interventions they can do as collectively and as individuals, we can then achieve more as a regulator.
Community participation calls for everyone to participate in planning, implementing, and managing our local environment. Community participation means a readiness on the part of both local governments and citizens to accept eco-responsibility in managing our surroundings.
There's a general tendency for a lot of individuals or members of a community to sit back and wait for the government agency to deal with a particular issue. But we want to challenge and appeal to individuals and the community by reminding them that this environment we are living in encompasses all of us, plants, animals, human beings, and anything around our surroundings is part of the environment. So what we do at individual level has both a positive and negative impact on the environment in different ways. So in that regard, each of us needs to take stock and always think about what am I doing as an individual to contribute to environmental management.
In Part 5 of the Act, of the Environmental Management Act, there's a duty that is placed upon all the citizens of this country to safeguard our environment, because our environment is not just for us today, it's for future generations. So there's a duty, first of all, on all of us. Secondly, there's also a principle in Part 6, which looks at the communities to participate in environmental management. And so my appeal, first of all, is to the citizens of these countries to change our mindset. So we need to change our mindset on how we manage our environment. Then we also have the environmental impact assessment process here at ZEMA. And every month we call for comments during an EIA process, and we are appealing to the members of the public and the community at large to participate in providing comments in the EIA process, because the EIA is a planning tool. And we need to plan for the communities in which we live. We've had instances where people have seen a project coming up, and they don't engage at the initial stages. And when the project is up and running, and they see the impacts, later on they will come to ZEMA to complain, and so that we can avoid actually that. The third aspect is that we need to report environmental non-compliances to the environmental management agencies. So if you live in a community and you see your neighbor is polluting, and you see someone's cutting down a tree, or someone is burning, someone is discharging effluent into the open environment, it's your duty as a citizen to report to the Zambia Environmental Management Agency. So generally, we should also stop cutting down trees. We've seen the impacts of climate change. Trees are sinks that take in carbon dioxide and release oxygen. So if we cut down a lot of trees, we are basically releasing a lot of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and that impacts negatively on the environment.
I care about the environment because my livelihood depends on it, and so should you. There is no power of change greater than a community discovering what it really cares about. You have been watching Our Environment, Our Future. My name is Ruth Benzo Witola. Until next time, it's bye for now.